Well, hello, everybody. Hello, friends of Bill W. and others. You have landed on Sober Speak. We are glad you are all here. This episode is brought to you by Kim P., Kimberly L., Caitlin A., and Tammy U. Thank you, Kim, Kimberly, Caitlin, and Tammy. They went to our website, soberspeak.com, clicked on the donate tab, and made a contribution. Thank you so much for your generosity. This episode is for you. My name is John M. I am an alcoholic. We are glad you are all here, especially newcomers. Newcomers, that is, both to recovery and newcomers to Sober Speak as a whole. I just want to go over a couple of the previous episodes real quick. I thought about this. By the way, we're going to have a little bit of a different episode today. I am the host of the episode, but this is the first time I actually have a co-host. Can you say hello, please, Mr. Steve G?
Hi, this is Steve G. And I am an alcoholic as
You
well.
are. You most certainly are. I have no doubt about that. Let me just talk about some of our previous episodes real quick. I've thought about doing this in the past, and I should do this more often, but just in case you missed them, I can't go all the way back. But by the way, Steve G is one of our previous episodes. I don't have that number in front of me, but I do know that he was one of the previous. Do you know that number off the top of your head, Steve? Okay, well, anyway.
It's lucky, I'm sure.
yeah, it's the lucky. You know what? I think I remember us saying it was lucky number 13, if I'm not mistaken.
Could be.
Yeah, I think we talked about that. But nonetheless, our previous episode, the one right before this, by the way, this is the one we are recording right now and that are about to bring to the listening public, is episode number 32. And a lot of times, and this is kind of a special edition episode, if you will. A lot of times I don't know exactly what episode is going to be. And in fact, I miss the mark sometimes. I say sometimes. I did it once with Jenny K. I actually said this is going to be, I can't remember. I think I said it was going to be episode number 26, but it was actually episode 27. But I doubt you that anybody quit listening after they figured out that I was one off the mark. But so anyway, but this time I know, because I'm going to release this one on this Saturday, because this is what we call a timely release. And you'll find out what we mean by that as we get into this episode. This is like I said, a special edition release. Our previous episode included Doug S. That was episode number 31. And Doug S. talked about, it says it's Do It Anyway. And it's called Do It Anyway because he read a reading from Mother Teresa, and you have to go back and listen to that one. And then the one before that, episode number 30, is Jake S. Jake S. His episode is entitled He Crossed That Line. And it's a fascinating episode. It kind of talks about his dark journey to get him from where he was to where he is today. The episode before that is episode 29, Jackie C. It's called The Kid at the Crack House in the Corner, which is the title that we came up with after she actually recorded that. You just never can. We blend into society very well. She's one of those, just really like all the guests I've had. You never know sitting here talking to people that they've been on the journey that they have. And then the episode before that, in fact, I was just referencing, is Jenny K. That's episode number 28. It's called Angry Atheist Sees the Light. And she talks about her journey from atheism and being a consistently angry person to believing in God and really improving herself throughout sobriety. So anyway, that's enough about that. This is a podcast, for those of you who don't know, centered around the Alcoholics Anonymous 12 steps of recovery. Sober Speak is for those considering recovery, those in recovery, or those who got sober a long time ago. Consider Sober Speak, if you will, your meeting between meetings. If you are enjoying the podcast, we would absolutely love to hear from you. Reach out to us at feedback@soberspeak.com. Just a couple of program notes here. Google now has a native app to, for those of you who use Android, for those of you who have used iPhones in the past. Most of you can go to Apple Podcasts or iTunes, but Google has always struggled with how to make their podcasts available to the public. Well, they now have, as kind of a competition, I guess, if you will, to iTunes and Apple Podcasts, they now have an app called Google Podcasts, and you can find us there. You can also find us on Spotify and iHeartRadio. Please remember, we do not speak for any 12-step community. We represent only ourselves. We are here to share our experience, strength, and hope with those who wish to come along for the ride. We are glad you are all here. Take what you want and leave the rest at the curb for the trash man to pick up. All right, so we're going to hop into this episode. I'm actually going to do listener feedback at the end of this episode, so stay around and hear that. We have some very good comments that I want you to hear. So, the reason my friend Steve G is here is because well, not just me and him, but many people just got back from a conference called the Crested Butte Mountain Conference. And for those of you who are interested in finding the website on that, it is cbconference.org. Is that correct, Steve?
Correct.
And the CB stands for Crested Butte Conference.org. And where do I start with this? Well, first of all, Steve has been a board member with this conference for how many years now, Steve?
Oh, boy. I don't know, 10 or 12, something like that.
Okay, so Steve has been on a board member for 10 or 12 years with this conference. And the last time that I personally actually went to this conference was...
when your daughter was very young.
Yes. In fact, she was in womb with my wife. So she was very young, less than 9 months old. I know that. And the interesting part is the other time that I went 2 years before that, 2 or 3 years, maybe 3 years or so, right in that area before that. It must have been 3 years because me and my wife now dated for like 3 years. So we we started hanging out, if you will, at that conference in Crested Butte. Kind of, we weren't really, I wasn't putting my arm around her or anything like that. Yeah, but we were just kind of hanging out at that conference, just kind of getting close and such. In fact, when we got back from that conference is when we started dating. So I guess the message is there. If you want to get into a long-term relationship and have kids, you might as well go to the Crested Butte Conference. Just kidding, right? But it did happen in our case. I did talk to another gentleman up there that actually happened to him. His name starts with an H, but I don't want to say other people's names. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. So anyway, so Steve has been on that board for a long time, and I wanted to do a kind of a different podcast here. We've always done interviews before, but this is one I wanted to do. This is a podcast I wanted to make sure we laid down here that dealt with the experience of Crested Butte, not only because it affected me, I know it affected a lot of people and it has for a lot of years. And I just want to talk about it. And there's a lot of people who have not been able to go to any sort of conferences in the past. And Steve not only goes to this one, I know you're kind of a conference...
junkie?
Yeah, junkie. Aficionado, yeah. I think I was going to say, but you can say junkie, right? So, all right, so Steve, let's start... First of all, let's start with the... if you go to the website, I know you can see the history of the conference, Crested Butte, the mountain conference. And I don't want to read it word for word, but I know there was a guy, David Musselwhite, who went to the conference back in the mid-'80s, I believe. And can you kind of fill in the blanks with what you know from there?
Well, actually, he and some friends were skiing up there in the winter. And they thought it'd be pretty interesting to, wouldn't it be a neat place for a family conference? And, most conferences are weekends.
Right.
And this is a whole week long. And he thought it'd be a really neat place for a week-long conference in the summer. And so they kicked it around and talked to their sponsors and prayed about it and decided let's call up there and see what's going on, what it takes.
And who did he get on the phone when he called up?
Well, he called Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
And David's passed away now. He went to the big meeting in the sky about 3 years ago, and
which is why we're mentioning his name in full, by
exactly.
the way. I just want everybody to know
exactly. That. And but he called up there, and David Musselwhite. It's not a real common name, you know. And he called up there at Chamber of Commerce and got a hold of some lady, and he explained, my name's David Musselwhite. I'm in Dallas. I'd like to talk to somebody about conference facilities up there and what it entails. And the lady said, well, who you'd need to talk to would be David Musselwhite. He goes, no. My name is David Musselwhite. I'm in Dallas. I want to talk to whoever I need to up there. And she said it'd be David Musselwhite. And so I guess they kind of figured it was somewhat of a God shot there, you know, that maybe God wanted them to do this. And, you know, this was the 35th year of it. So this is going back 36, 37 years ago.
30, right. So, wow, that's a long time. So this was the 35th anniversary this year of the conference. And by the way, I don't think we mentioned this yet, but for those listening, we have people who listen in all sorts of countries and those even in the United States who may not know where Crested, Butte is. It is in the state of Colorado. And so it bears to mention that. And let's talk a little bit about the setting for the conference itself. It's not at sea level.
No, it's about 10,000 feet.
Right. So it's high up in the mountains, and I shouldn't say for the well, I would say the majority of people that go up there are Texans, right? It's not closed off to Texans, and I know it is changed dramatically over the years, right? There's a lot of different states that come in now.
Sure.
But you have people coming in from Florida and other areas of the country, and so they're not used to, I mean, I know that I personally am not used to that sort of altitude, if you will. So everyone kind of comes up there and they're having a hard time. First couple of days, you're kind of breathing heavy, right?
Sure.
But after that, though, let's talk about the setting. Man, it is absolutely beautiful.
It's a nice place to get out of the heat in Texas.
It's right.
For a week in end of July, you know. And,
yeah, so the temperatures there are in the 70s usually,
typically,
right?
yeah.
In the day, and then they dip down to the mid 40s during the night.
Typically,
Yeah. So
and, pretty good weather. You know, we usually get a few showers over the course of the week, but you know, it's a week long where you can really relax.
And you had mentioned earlier that it is not only a week-long setting for. You said it's a week-long setting, but you also mentioned that it is a family event, right? Correct. So this is not just AA. Talk a little bit about what all is involved. There's AA, right?
There's AA meetings all week. There's Al-Anon meetings all week. We have 2 Alateen sponsors that take this year I believe there was 42 Alateens up there, and they take those kids on activities all week.
And by the way, I don't want to mention their names just because I have not, I did not seek permission to do so beforehand. But those 2 Alateen sponsors are, and they're not the only ones, by the way. There are many people, but they're the main Alateen sponsors. They're absolutely fantastic. And I can tell you, there's one man and one woman. I talked to the man this year, and he said, "This is my last year again." Yep. So in other words,
he told me at the end, next year's his last year again.
So anyway, they're absolutely fantastic. So like you said, though, there's all the different activities.
Yes, there's children's programs for kids who aren't actually old enough to get into the Alateen program. And, so parents can have fun up there, or they can spend, a lot of time with their family, and, there's an awful lot of activities that we're going to get into later, and, it's a beautiful little mountain town, and it's up at the ski resort up a couple of miles up the hill, and, it's in the back country. It's not right off of Highway 70 where most people go skiing up there. It's about a 4.5 hour drive from Denver in good weather, so... Yeah. It's remained a quiet little mountain town, It's pretty cool. Real safe place. Kids come and go down in the. They have shuttle that kids ride the shuttle down in the town and walk around, and I think most parents are pretty cool with that.
Yeah, I kind of Steph. I'm kind of a helicopter dad, if you will, and even my daughter I let her get on the bus and go downtown. She had never done anything like that before, and and I would be remiss in talking. I know we talked about the Al-Anon sponsors and such like that, and this just gives you an example of the community, though. Like we were staying on the 3rd floor at the place we were at, and it was a big group that was up on the 4th floor, and they would reach out to us on a consistent basis. Once again, I don't want to say names just because I haven't gotten permission, but, they had things like, Steak Monday, where they cooked a bunch of steaks up. I know they had Taco Tuesday.
Spaghetti Thursday,
and then Fajita Friday. I can't remember if there was anything on Wednesday or not. But,
I think there was.
Yeah, right. But they, they were so gracious. There was a group of them, about 6 or 7 people in this particular location, who would, make all this food. They invited us in. Everybody would share a meal. Then they would get on with their activities or meetings or whatever it is that were going on. But it was just absolutely great. And I don't know if you noticed, but Crested Butte to me seemed to be like the land of bikes and dogs.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you are a biker or you are a dog lover, it is the place to be. I have never seen such a dog-friendly town in my entire life.
Yep, and it's funny because and everybody is fit up there. They're all sinewy, They walk and ride and hike and they're running around with all these dogs and on bikes, and it's been like that since I've been up there.
And they put those bikes on the back of those ski lifts, and then they head on up to the top. And then they ride the bikes down. I kept thinking, well, they're going to bring those bikes back down on the ski lift, right? But no, they ride them down.
Yep,
it is incredible. All right, so that is a little bit about the setting. We talked about the setting. We talked about the history. Now let's talk a little bit about the schedule that is going on up there for people who are actually with the conference. And by the schedule, I mean all the various meetings that are taking place. So I'm going to let you talk about it because I know that it is one of your every day. When I say every day, Monday through Friday, I believe, during the conference. By the way, this conference this year was July 22nd through 27th. And next year, it's a full week, but I can't remember exactly when it starts.
I think it's the week ending August 2nd.
Correct. Yeah, no, I do remember seeing that.
So it's, the end of July, beginning of August.
Right.
It unofficially kicks off, actually. The little Crested Butte AA group has a Sunday night meeting in their little church.
Ah, yes.
And so they move it to the high school on that Sunday night before the conference kicks off on Monday. And they have, everybody who's up there at that time, which is just about everybody, goes to that meeting,
right?
Down at the high school. And,
that high school was packed.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's where you kind of catch up with people from different places, and I've made friends from various places in the United States and all over Texas. And just to back up a little, that first year they had it, all they did was make flyers, and they got flyers down to Austin, down to San Antonio, down to Houston, and around the various, through all their intergroups, and as well as Dallas. And they had over 400 people up there that first year.
Very
just by word of mouth.
And that was in the mid-'80s, I believe, right?
Whenever 35
years ago, do the math, right? Wow. And so let's talk about the attendance there while we're on this piece. So
sure.
This year, the attendance was what, 700?
It was 730. Now that includes our kids and stuff. I think there was 42, 45 Alateens and, about 70 kids in the kids program, and that ranges from, infants up to 12 years of age,
And so registration for the conference opens up every year on what, April 1st? Is that right? And then, theoretically, it closes when
it fills up.
When it fills up.
Usually around July 1st, something like that. Yeah.
And this year, I know they let in a couple of latecomers, but they said next year they're definitely closing it off.
Well, we're limited as to a space in our evening speaker meeting, which is Monday through Friday at 8 p.m.
Right.
So we can only fit about, we can't fit fire code wise, we can only fit a certain number of people in that room.
Right. So I guess you could come up to the conference, but as far as getting into the meetings and such like that,
just hang out.
You can just hang out. You just pick it up through osmosis, if you will.
But yes, Monday through Friday, there's a 7:15 a.m. meditation meeting.
Right.
And then there's an 8 a.m.
And so have you, I didn't make the 7:15 a.m. meditation. Did you go to that by any chance?
I've been to it in the past.
Okay.
Some meditation.
Is it inside or outside?
Inside.
Okay.
Inside. And then Monday through Friday, there's an 8 a.m. meeting outside on a deck behind a bar, of course.
Now, this is your favorite meeting. Am I correct about that?
That's the one. Well, I like the evening meetings as well, but 8 a.m., it's pretty cool to sit there when it's 45, 50 degrees and I have a cup of coffee and watch the sun come up over the mountain, and talk about our steps,
Right, you get to see that beautiful mountain, just staring at it while everyone's sharing. And you kind of doing or at least for me, it was doing a little bit of meditation at the same time.
Oh, sure, sure.
All right.
And, meetings are all an hour. Except for
those
our
workshops.
Yeah.
Right. So here's the basic schedule that you have every day, right? So you have that 7:15 meditation meeting for those who want to attend that. And then you have the 8 a.m. meeting, which you're talking about. Kind of, I don't know if you call it a sunrise meeting, but it's it is a meeting where you sit on a deck outside, you have a discussion, kind of a topic, and you get to watch the mountain at the same time. It's absolutely beautiful. And then after that, there is a 10:30 a.m. meeting every day, right?
Well, there's 2 or 3 AA meetings and an Al-Anon meeting, I believe. I don't have it memorized, but, we offer different topics. So you can pick, if you don't like a particular topic for one certain 10:30 meeting, you can go to another one, And there's also, a lot of times there's at different times there's Al-Anon meetings, different topics. And twice a week, I think it's on Tuesday and Wednesday after the 8 a.m. meeting, there's a meeting up on the mountain. So you take the lift up and there's a meeting. It's kind of it's a formal meeting. It's in our program typically, and it's about a 9:30, 10 o'clock meeting. It depends on when everybody gets up there, and have a meeting up on the mountain.
That's beautiful. And so I can tell you that I'm just looking at the agenda or the bulletin, whatever you want to call it, the conference program. From the conference itself. And I can tell you one of my favorite meetings that I went to, believe it or not, the whole time, was a third step discussion meeting that was held on Sunday night. It was one of the very first meetings. In fact, it was the first meeting. And it was on as you know, there's 2 different hotels really that were operating. 3, I guess, if you include
4 or
the
5.
Right.
People stay all over.
Right. There's a lot of different locations where people are both staying and we're having meetings.
Condos and stuff.
Right. And so that third step discussion meeting, I remember it was like not only a third step discussion, but the topic was also kind of like, what do you expect out of this conference, or what are you expecting for this week? And just to hear people tell their stories of, how many years they've been there or whether it's their first year or not, was absolutely fantastic. I loved it. I also went to and on Monday, July 23rd in the morning at 10:30 a.m., there was, and this just kind of, I want to give people a flavor of the types of meetings. Now, keep in mind, I was going to mainly AA meetings, right? But as Steve said, there are Al-Anon meetings. But I went to the We Are Not a Glum Lot meeting on Monday morning. And that was very well done. A lot of good discussion there. But nonetheless, so every day you have the 10:30 a.m. meeting, and then you have the 2 o'clock p.m. meeting.
And again, there's, various meetings. There's 3 or 4 meetings. Sometimes it's 2 and 2, 2 Al-Anon, 2 AA meetings, or, it just depends on the schedule that day. And then 3:30.
3:30 to 5 is a workshop.
There's 5 workshops every day, and various topics there.
So what's the difference between a meeting and a workshop? I went, but just if you want to explain.
Typically, we try to have some kind of interactive, little activity in a workshop. Get somebody involved. The crowd in the workshop a little more involved than just a typical discussion meeting.
And I want to tell you that I went to your workshop. What was the name of it? 10, 11, and 12?
10, 11. 10,
and when
11.
I say you and another lady.
Al-Anon lady.
Yeah, Al-Anon lady.
All the workshops are, conducted by one AA person and an Al-Anon person.
That's great to kind of balance it out. But because of that workshop and because of the flyer that
handout we had,
that the Al-Anon lady handed out, she was absolutely great. Because of that and filling that out, I went. That was one of my takeaways from the conference. I got to do a 4-step, and I started doing it there. I already told my sponsor I'm going to be calling you, so I didn't have to get on a podcast and tell him about it. I actually went. I called him on the phone and said I'm going to be meeting up with you probably within the next week.
Good. So, you needed some fixing. I'm glad you took away something, John.
All right, so those are the workshops. Those are held 3:30 to 5 every day, and like you said, typically there's some work to do. So,
and there's an evening speaker meeting.
I'm getting to that. We're going to go to that.
Hey man,
don't get ahead of me here. All right.
Okay.
I know you're the co-host, but just don't take too much control here from me. All right. So keep in mind. You are listening to Sober Speak. You can find us on the World Wide Web at soberspeak, all one word, .com. There you will find approximately 30 plus or so other episodes, which you can listen to for free. Sober Speak is a self-supporting organization through our own contributions. We are not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. We do not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorse nor oppose any causes. All right, now back to the episode. So, as Mr. Steve G was saying, kind of the biggest meeting of the day, or the highlight of the day for the most part, at least in terms of numbers
best attended
of people.
Anyway.
Yeah, the best attended, because people may be having experiences outside of those meetings. But it's the 8 o'clock meeting every night, and it's Monday through Friday, and there are various speakers. Generally, they're coming in from other parts of the country.
We try to stay away from picking Texas speakers because the conference has a lot of Texas people there, and we've generally heard most of those guys, just in various settings. And but we have speakers that we end up having to book them out, 2 years in advance typically.
Right.
And they get to bring a guest. It's pretty cool deal for them. They speak one night and they get a week vacation.
Very nice. So if you're out there and you're thinking about how to get a free vacation, start working on your AA talk.
There you go.
All right, so we can't go through every speaker just because of the time, but I saw Jimmy on the first night, right? Monday.
Yes.
And then I saw Tiffany on the second night.
Yes.
And then, what's her name? The Al-Anon speaker on the third night. I'm missing that. Come on, Steve, help me out. Her name was or is Angie. Yes. Angie from Destin. Mm-hmm. She was absolutely fantastic. And,
yep.
and I have a public confession here. I had never thought seriously about joining Al-Anon in the past. It's just, I mean, I've always appreciated Al-Anon, liked Al-Anon, but after Angie was through speaking, I was going, man, that is something I should seriously consider. But that's another subject for another time.
We've had some of the best Al-Anon speakers I've ever heard up there on a regular basis.
Yeah, and Jimmy is from New Jersey, right?
You can kind of tell.
Yeah, you can kind of tell. And he
wasn't from Texas.
No. Sure. He was swimming with the fishes. But he definitely had a New Jersey accent. And then Tiffany from California, just so young and sweet looking. And then she goes through her story, and she's still young and sweet. But man, what a story!
She's one of us.
Oh, you know what? Can I say? Do I need to go back and delete those names? I don't know. I'll figure it out later. But nonetheless, so we had some speakers, right? And they were absolutely fantastic. So we had the 8 o'clock speaker, and then there was a couple more speakers the other nights. When I had to leave on Thursday morning with my family.
Matt was Thursday night, and then he's younger person, and then Tim was on Friday
night.
Correct, and they were both excellent. I mean, out of the park, man.
Very nice, very nice.
And then we have a 10:30 meeting every night as well.
Yo, that's right. Now I never went to that. Did you go to any of the 10:30?
I've been to some of those.
Okay,
certainly.
And is it so that's an AA meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For those of you who are late night, and the Alateens are having meetings at the same time
during the speaker meeting, typically.
Well, no, I remember there were 10 o'clock meetings.
Oh yes, they have a later night. And we had Ala-20s up there this year.
That's
some of our Alateens that have been going up there since they were young kids, and they kind of formed their own group and had their own meetings later at night.
Right.
Of course.
So Alateens, for those of you, explain Alateens. How do you explain that?
It's children of alcoholics or Al-Anons that are
who have been affected by alcoholism in some form or fashion, right?
And they're teenage years,
right? So Ala-20s isn't like an official group, right? That's kind of something that this conference
kind of made it up,
created for the kids who
been coming up there for a long time, man.
Right? Super.
It's a family vacation, so there's a lot of families that go up there every year.
So my takeaway from this was 3 things, really. Number 1, to do a 4-step, like I've talked about already. Number 2 was my daughter was very interested in Alateen after this was over. We didn't know whether she'd really take to it or not, but she was. And I want to try to get something jump-started here in our area, or at least get her involved in Alateen in some other group if I need to, and that would be great. And then the other thing that I thought of was to be basically the best husband I can. I don't know how else to phrase it, but that just kind of came to me during this conference. And by the way, another shout out to my bride, Shannon, who helps to put, she spent 2-3 hours today working on this podcast you wouldn't just believe all the technical stuff that needs to happen. And she does all that on the back end. And I couldn't do it without her, and I'm very appreciative of that. So do you have any particular takeaway? Let me put it this way. You hear a lot of people talk about at that conference that every year that they come up, and some have come 35 years in a row, right? Some have come 10 years, some have come 5, some have come 3, some are coming for their first time. But you hear a lot of people talk about how every year that they come is a different experience. Is there any, and I know you've been coming for a long time, and something may have not stood out to you this year, but I'm just going to ask you, is there anything that stood out for you this year?
Nothing in particular. I always try to get some guys who've never been up there, and it's always fun watching them, But yes, in the past I've had experiences up there, sometimes when I'm up there, I really feel the pain, or I really feel feel God up there or whatever. I mean, you can't help but we had almost a full moon last week. And, boy, that mountain at night with the moon on it, it was pretty awesome looking.
I forgot that orange moon, right?
Yeah. We sat out on deck and talked and looked at the moon, a few evenings, and it was pretty special. But you can't help but feel the presence of God up there. For me, we took some nice hikes, and Crested Butte claims to be the wildflower capital of Colorado, but there's probably 30 towns that say that. But and so there's wildflowers everywhere if you drive up some of the mountain roads. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
Very nice. Yeah. Like you said, when we had to leave on Thursday morning, we had some other family obligations. We were definitely sad. Did not want to leave, and we had wished we'd stayed till Saturday. Not because we didn't want to go do the other thing that we were doing, but because we just really, there's something about it. It is spiritual in nature. I mean, not only do you get to do the activities, you get to go to meetings. And speaking of the activities, let's talk about some of the activities now, just so people will have an idea of what is up there, right? So, number one, they have what they call solo activities. Now, back when I was younger, they used to call this, singles in sobriety or something like that. But now they call it solos activities. So there are plenty of solo activities. There's a whole agenda for solos in sobriety. There's an infant and nursery camp for those who have small children. Correct.
And that comes in handy because, we have trained staff that watches those children, and it's I think they have to have two, one trained staff for every 2 infants or something, some kind of crazy numbers that they watch them, right? And that's kind of nice for the adults that want to go to a speaker meeting in the evening. They don't have to worry about their children. There's a young kids camp, and they work on crafts and in the evenings while the speaker's going. And so, you can drop the children off at I don't even know the times off the top of my head anymore, but 6:30 and pick them up at 9:30 after the evening meeting. And, they've worked on crafts that evening or gone swimming in one of the pools at the hotel or, different, and they work on crafts associated. They always have a theme for the children, and, it's always an AA theme, and kind of working that into them, and it's a pretty cool deal.
Very cool. And I know that they do a preteens. Oh, what was those activities? I know the lady who does those, and she does a real good job with the kids, but I can't remember there was a name of, they made the banners and they would participate in activities. Sure. I guess it's all the same thing. And these are more for the preteens versus the infants and toddlers.
Right.
There are every day. Once again, there's tons of Al-Anon activities, just tons, and the Al-Anones like to hang out together. They don't want to be with old geezers like me and you.
But our leaders, the Al-Anon leaders, actually take them out and go whitewater rafting with them one day, and go hiking with them. Sometimes they go horseback riding. But they do a lot of hiking because that's relatively inexpensive, Right. And so the parents don't have to worry about them all day, and they can kind of do their own thing. Or a lot of times parents will gather all the kids and do some kind of family activity.
Right. They, in fact, I can attest to that. My daughter actually went whitewater rafting, not only with the Al-Anones, but with my wife and son as well. I bowed out, but I'm just a non-activity kind of guy, I guess. My thing is, I just love hanging around the campus and going I say the campus, the general vicinity, and going all the meetings. I just absolutely love it.
But we have we have vendors come in on Monday. And, when the conference kicks off Monday morning, and that's when, people line up and in the various, if they want a zip line, they sign up for that. And on Tuesday afternoon it's X, this time, or whitewater rafting on Thursday, in the morning, and all that stuff's the vendors take pretty good care of that, where they typically work out transportation and everything else.
Yeah.
Then we have a golf tournament. So for the golfers, one day, are the biggest liars, I guess, is what a lot of people call them.
You're right.
Then we have a fishing tournament and a tennis tournament. And we play softball on Friday afternoon against the townies, and
they even have that, what is called the 5K run. They call it the Butte Scoot.
Yep.
Like, just for those, it's a play on words. For those of you who can't figure it out at home, it's Crested Butte. So like the Butte Scoot is what it's called. So that's a lot of fun. And I think you mentioned the fishing tournament as well. But they also have a horseback riding. They have yoga for those who are interested in it. They have a zip line, fly fishing, the float trips. Steve's already mentioned the nature walks. So there's all kinds of activity going on. And we just absolutely loved it. I'm sure we'll be back up there next year. I heard a lot of people at the conference said they get nervous right before April 1st, because April 1st is the first day that they can register, and they just can't wait to even register for the conference. And I thought that was pretty cute.
Yeah, one of the things I enjoy a lot is we do countdowns every evening, for Sobriety Countdowns, obviously, and Al-Anon.
And for those of you who have not experienced the countdown before, explain what that is.
Well, it's, everybody will stand up, and, anyone with less than 1 year of sobriety sit down, 2 years, 3, 4, 5, and somebody's left standing with, 50 years of sobriety, and, everybody cheers wildly, and same thing with the Al-Anons, they participated in their program the same way, and we have a countdown for that, and we have, my favorite is the state countdown. We'll have, I think it's on Thursday night.
That's why I missed that.
Yeah, where we have, like, okay, 2 people are here from Alabama, and they stand up and cheer wildly for themselves, and we go in alphabetical order. But for some reason, they always skip over Texas until the very end, and. And, we had 730 people register this year, and the great state of Texas had 463 people up there. And,
my goodness.
It's pretty cool, because we get a lot of people from Oklahoma and Colorado, and but we had somebody from Hawaii this year, and we had a whole contingent, about 10 people from Canada, and it's pretty cool because you get to meet some people, and I've made friends up there that I see once a year,
Mm-hmm.
and I know they're going to be back there, and they might live in Iowa or North Dakota, and I know they'll be back there next year, It's pretty cool. And then the last night we have a countdown for the number of conferences we've been to up there,
In the number of Crested Butte conferences, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So speak about conferences a little bit, because like I said, I know that you have been to a lot of conferences, not just Crested Butte. And there are people out there listening to this who have never been to a conference before at all.
Conferences, pretty good experiences for me anyway. It's, like we've got one here in North Texas, in Dallas. Well, it's actually in Addison. That is
coming up in August, right?
Correct. Third weekend of this month, and it's a North Texas Roundup, and it's people generally from the area here in Dallas that will attend that conference, and it might be 1,500 people, register for that, and there's typically speakers on Friday night, and then Saturday there'd be 3 or 4 speakers, and then one Saturday night, and then usually a Sunday morning speaker. And that's what most conferences are like, And certainly there's breakout meetings in between a lot of those activities. And there's, usually an archives room where you can look back at some of the stuff that is mentioned in AA literature and see the actual, articles that they talk about in the from the different publications that really started, lit fires at the beginning of this, and as far as getting AA started, and
so if you're even slightly interested in AA history at these conferences, especially the larger ones, right? These archive rooms can keep you fascinated for hours.
They really are. Seeing some of the news articles and stuff, and that's what most conferences I've been to. This is the only family week-long conference that I'm aware of, is the Crested Butte Mountain Conference, and it's pretty different.
It is.
Because I'm up there, you really get to, the speakers come up and they just speak one night, and they're up there all week like everybody else, and the rest of the week they're just a bozo on the bus like we are,
Yeah.
And you get to talk to them a lot and rub elbows with them and be in meetings with them. It's pretty cool.
Well, Steve, we're going to have to get back together in another year and talk about our Crested Butte experience in July or August of next year. Does that sound like a good idea?
We'll have to try to do that if we're here.
All right. Well, I want to switch to some what you call listener feedback. If I was really professional, Steve, I would have at this point some sort of like bridge music or whatever. In fact, could you just go like diddly?
No, I'm not going to do that.
Oh, come on, do me some music, man. All right, well, I'll do my own. Okay, now we're going to some listener feedback. Is you're supposed to, make a smooth transition somehow, some way. I guess that didn't work very well. Okay, so from Caitlin. Caitlin wrote in and she said, "Thank you very much for these podcasts. They have been pure gold for me as I am in the first few months of sobriety. I'm almost 4 months sober, and these podcasts are a tremendous tool for my recovery. My sponsor goes to the noon meeting at the Frisco group. Don't know who that is, but she listens to Sober Speak and recommended these to me early on when I was struggling with distracting myself from drinking at night. I've passed these along to my dad, who is 10 years sober in AA, and my husband, who is a non-alcoholic but very supportive of recovery. I think he will find the Al-Anon podcast very helpful. Thank you so much for all you do. I truly can't express how helpful these have been for me. Have a great weekend. Sincerely, Caitlin." Caitlin, you made my day. Thank you so much. That's why we put these things here. And hopes that we can help somebody somewhere. From Don S. Don wrote in. He says, "Thank you for your Sober Speak, which has been a great, quote, meeting between meetings for us. You do a great job of interviewing Don and Amy." Sean wrote in, "Love the speakers and the format. Keep it up," with a little exclamation point there. Thank you very much, Don. Sean and Don, both of you. Kim wrote in and she says, "John, it's obvious that your motivation is to carry the message. I have come to rely upon my, quote, meeting between meetings. Your podcasts have been part of my program this summer with my crazy schedule, exclamation point. I've even suggested to one of my sponsees listen during her commute when she's anxious. It's important for me to support Sober Speak so that it will be there for all of us. I really appreciate the time and the effort you have put into it. With love and gratitude, Kim." Thank you so much, Kim. Thank you for everybody who wrote in. If any of you want to write in and get in touch with us, just either go to the website, soberspeak.com, click on the Contact Us tab, or you can email us directly at feedback@soberspeak.com. Now I'm going to go ahead and close in the usual manner. And the usual manner for us here at Sober Speak is to read page 164 of the big book. In fact, Steve, can you read this? Do you need your... sorry. Not right now. So it says, abandon yourself to God as you understand. This is page 164 from the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous, just in case I didn't say that. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Once again, Steve G., thank you for being my co-host.
Thank you, John, for asking me. You needed the help.
Yes, I do need the help. I need a whole team of people working round the clock for help. But anyway, God bless you. Thank you for being here. And we'll see all y'all next time. Bye-bye.